Good afternoon, everyone. We had a great day in the markets today with fresh record highs for the Dow, S&P 500, NASDAQ, and also the Russell 2000. Mind you, on the S&P 500, volumes were down by about 18%. The TSX gained about 200 points today on up volumes, up by about 18%. So a lot of broad participation in the market. That's always a positive and a healthy sign. There are some concerns as well, which we'll get to in a second. But in terms of the market narrative, it really continues to be the same. Expectations that we will see a large stimulus plan from the Democrats. They do not seem to be backing down on that, even though there's more concerns that if they overshoot on the upside in terms of stimulating the economy, we will see inflation. Janet Yellen, the former Fed chair and now Treasury Secretary, downplayed those concerns over the weekend on a couple of different news spots and said that the bigger risk is a slow economic recovery and slower job growth. And that really is what they've been saying, that inflation, any kind of inflation that you're seeing is really going to be transitory. We will see. What we did see in the market, though, with respect to stimulus and heating up the economy, you really saw areas like energy clearly outperform. You also saw some of the reopening reflationary areas of the market do very well as well. So financials, materials, metals, and mining, as well as energy, really the outperformers today. Interestingly as well, though, when you take a look at the big tech heavy-weighted NASDAQ, the Wall Street Journal had an interesting article just taking a look at Amazon, Apple, Google, Facebook, as well as Microsoft, that in this COVID-19 pandemic, their growth rate, their combined revenue has actually grown together to the tune of $1.1 trillion. So it's just interesting to keep that in perspective in terms of what has been working and what might continue to work. So just a point there. I'd also say that when we think about the market and why it continues to move higher, there is vaccine optimism, expectations that we will see 3 vaccines in the United States with a faster rollout as we get more and more supply in the March-April time period. At the same time, it's kind of interesting just to kind of take a look at where the world is right now. And I'm looking at our world in data.org, and this is as of February the 7th. 64% of the population in Israel have had their first vaccine or one shot. UAE is at 43%, the UK is at 18%, US at 12%, and Canada at 2.8%. Again, that goes back to thinking about the geography and which countries might be faring better than others on an economic perspective, and therefore where you might want to invest. A couple other items I would just mention in terms of vaccine optimism and stimulus being drivers to the market. Also, of course, earnings. We are seeing earnings beat. And importantly as well, the growth rates are actually in positive territory for the fourth quarter. Expectations from the Wall Street analysts was that we would see a negative 12% number. But obviously we are far surpassing that. So that's been a big tailwind for the broader markets. I would, however, point out, though, that despite this melt up in the market and the positive sentiment we're seeing, the VIX, the volatility index, was up by about 2% today. I find that somewhat interesting, something we have to keep our eye on. Also, what was up? Yields. Watch those yields as well, because yields do and can pose risks to the equity markets. I mentioned that on Friday. Some believe that, some do not. Goldman Sachs as well as Credit Suisse were out downplaying those concerns. So we'll continue to talk about that as well. And the reason why they're downplaying those concerns is because rates are just so low. It's not a tipping point. We're also, of course, keeping our eye on the TSX. As I said, gained 194 points. You saw the energy sector, or the XEG is what I'm looking at, up by 2.3%. Financials here were up by about a 0.5 percentage point, and materials up by 2%. Now, away from that, one of the other big market stories that we've got to mention is what happened in Bitcoin. We saw a record high there, 44,000. And that on the back of comments out of Tesla. In their SEC filing, they bought $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. And that's just adding to the credibility story, perhaps, or like that's how the market's taking it, that the Bitcoin is here to stay and more institutions are going to be using it. I have looked at and own a fund. It's called QBTC. It's a Bitcoin fund, and that was up by about 17% today or so. So certainly a lot going on, and we do have a number of Canadian earnings out this week, so I'll bring you those as well. Have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow.